The marriage registrar mispronounced my name. I was just about to correct him when suddenly, a flurry of comments appeared before my eyes. Oh, the poor heroine. She remains oblivious to the fact that the hero deliberately misstates her name in order to marry the antagonist. The name inscribed by the hero is that of the antagonist, Jiang Shui. Alas, the heroine, having suffered from drowning, has lost her wits and now cannot read. In a daze, I cast my gaze downward at the marriage registration document. There, glaringly inscribed, were the two characters, Jiang Shui. 1. So she is indeed the tragic female protagonist who met her untimely demise twice due to her name? Indeed, this time she rectified it, marking the inception of her woeful fate. The second time, she was so intimidated by the male lead that she refrained from correcting it, thus missing her sole opportunity for salvation. Please, refrain from spoiling the plot. How can one continue to watch with such revelations? Oh, why has the female lead suddenly fallen silent? The registrar is inquiring about her. In a moment, the male lead will whisper reminders in her ear, prompting her to respond as rehearsed. As I perused these words, my recently awakened mind became thoroughly muddled once more. At that moment, Gu Wenlin leaned close, his tone laced with warning. Answer the registrar. Affirm that your name is Jiang Shui, quickly, or you shall receive no sweets. How wicked of the male lead to bully a fool. Can a villain also play the role of the male lead? The female lead must not correct her name, otherwise, should she truly marry him, her future will be fraught with despair. Oh, my poor protagonist. Young lady, are you indeed Jiang Shui? What is happening? Am I the female lead? A fool? Supporting character, Jiang Shui? Male lead, Gu Wenlin. The male lead does not wish to marry me. Hence I am to impersonate the supporting character? The comments suggest that should I defy the male lead's instructions, I will face a dire fate? Glancing at the man beside me, his eyes dark and foreboding, I instinctively recoiled from any association with him. I am Jiang Shui, indeed, I am Jiang Shui. Upon hearing my declaration, a smile spread across Gu Wenlin's face. Yes, she is Jiang Shui. What transpired? According to the storyline, shouldn't the female lead be clamoring to assert her identity as home man? Has the screenwriter rewritten the script? Or has the female lead become enlightened? Or perhaps, has she been reborn? 2. After the marriage registrar verified identities, he affixed a stamp upon the marriage certificate bearing the name Jiang Shui. As the stamp fell, Gu Wenlin visibly exhaled in relief. He joyfully tucked the certificate away and retrieved a nearly melted white rabbit candy from his pocket, placing it into my hand. Ruffling my hair with praise, he said, so obedient. Gu Wenlin possessed striking features, his handsome visage a rare sight. Were it not for the comments warning that defying him would lead to my demise, I would undoubtedly be eager to wed him. Exiting the marriage registry, a throng of people surged forward. A middle-aged man and woman stood at the forefront. The man inquired, well, did you receive the certificate? Under their expectant gazes, Gu Wenlin waved the marriage certificate. Indeed, we have received it. Are you now satisfied? The middle-aged couple's faces lit up with joy. Wonderful, wonderful, it's all good. This middle-aged couple must be the male lead's parents, and those behind them are relatives summoned to prevent him from fleeing, right? Indeed. They remain blissfully unaware that their son has registered his marriage with another woman right under their noses. Haha. To have such parents compelling their son to marry a fool is indeed the male lead's misfortune. Were it not for the female lead's daring leap into the water to save them, the male lead's parents would have long drowned. And it was the female lead's exhaustion and prolonged submersion that resulted in her mental impairment. In that light, the male lead's parents appear to possess a sense of gratitude. Why should their gratitude come at the cost of their son's happiness? They are merely coveting the inheritance left to the female lead by her adoptive parents. Desiring to profit while fearing the village's ire, they pressure their son to marry a fool, thereby ruining the female lead's life. This world is fraught with peril. 3. Under the relentless barrage of comments, my befuddled mind cleared entirely. So, I have been reborn. After perishing from starvation in the pigsty on that winter's night, I have returned. The harrowing memories of my past life surged forth like a tidal wave. I was an orphan. My folly in rescuing the Gu parents from drowning led to my mental affliction. In gratitude, they, driven by greed for the inheritance left to me by my adoptive parents, coerced their son into marrying me. In my previous life, when the marriage registrar verified identities, I denied being Jiang Shui. Thus, Guilin and I became legally bound as husband and wife. Upon learning this, Jiang Shui, in a fit of anger, wed another. Guinlin's demeanor altered drastically, turning cold and cruel towards me. The Gu parents, having acquired my adoptive parents' inheritance, soon revealed their true colors. Under Gu Winlin's indulgence, they withheld food and water from me. Within the Gu household, I faced endless toil. The slightest transgression would result in brutal beatings. To conceal their abuse from the village, they imprisoned me at home, prohibiting my outings while cultivating a victim persona, painting me as a complete madwoman, not only insane but also vicious. A year later, Guilin and Jiang Shui overcame all obstacles to unite. My plight became even more dire. Jiang Shui harbored a deep hatred for me, blaming me for her impulsive marriage to a pervert. She channeled all her energy into tormenting me. Guilin remained indifferent. Were it not for the Gu parents' concerns about the village's perception, Jiang Shui would have surely ended my life. Eventually, one day, Guilin left with Jiang Shui. When I next saw them, they were clad in new attire, adorned with expensive watches, and laden with extravagant gifts. It was from that point onwards that the Gu family's fortunes visibly improved, while my situation deteriorated further. The Gu parents completely stripped me of my freedom, chaining me in the pigsty. Soon, I was on the brink of death. Before I succumbed, the Gu parents stood outside the pigsty, watching me. Their faces reflected delight at my impending demise. This fool is finally about to die. Now we can join our son in the city to enjoy life. After my death, my spirit wandered for what felt like an eternity, until one day I entered another body. I lived each day in a haze until the marriage registrar inquired about my name, and gradually, my mind began to clear. I had been reborn, no longer a fool. I could finally take control of my own life. For I was pulled onto a bullock cart by the Gu parents, shoved into the most jarring position at the rear. As in my previous life, they grasped my hand, their faces beaming with delight. Yet, I could distinctly see disdain lurking in their eyes. As the comments suggested, there are myriad ways to repay kindness. There is no need to sacrifice one's son's happiness. In my past life, I was too naive to comprehend. Fixated solely on marrying my brother Gu. This time, no longer foolish, I now discerned that their disdain for me was glaringly apparent. Marrying me was merely a strategic maneuver for them. The cart halted beneath the large locust tree at the village entrance. Gu mother disembarked to distribute wedding candies to the villagers. This is no festive distribution. She is merely proclaiming to the villagers that the female lead belongs to their family. No one shall dare to covet the female lead's inheritance. Look. A few individuals are departing. Those were the very ones plotting against the female lead's wealth. Now they are outmaneuvered by the Gu family. Surely they are seething with rage. They will undoubtedly return home to vent their frustrations on their wives. Oh, even the village chief has arrived. This old wretch is hardly a virtuous man. He even wishes for his foolish son to wed the female protagonist. I took a piece of candy from Mother Gu and pressed it into the village chief's hands, saying, "Grandpa village chief, here, enjoy this. It's Nyo-Nyo's wedding candy." The female protagonist insisted he partake, while the old man seethed internally, feigning delight on his face. The village chief accepted the sweet with a reluctant expression, lamenting, "Nyo-Nyo from the Gu family is a pitiful yet wonderful child. Your son Walin marrying her is indeed a blessing for your family. You must treat her well, otherwise I shall be the first to object." I clapped my hands in approval. Father and Mother Gu hastily agreed. Of course, Nyo-Nyo will be one of us from now on. We will certainly treat her with kindness. Bah, they are merely a bunch of leeches looking to drain the female protagonist dry. I took Mother Gu's hand and tilted my head in inquiry. Can Nyo-Nyo eat delicious food? Can she wear new clothes? Auntie, will you let Nyo-Nyo out to play instead of keeping her cooped up at home? The smile on Mother Gu's face faltered instantly. This proves it. The female protagonist is certainly not foolish anymore. She is merely pretending to be naive. Father Gu quickly interjected, of course, whatever Nyo-Nyo wishes to eat. Just tell your father, and he will buy it for you. If you want to play outside, you may go. I skipped joyfully, exclaiming, oh, there will be tasty treats. New clothes to wear. I can go out to play. I must tell little Fatty, I want to enjoy delicious food with him. With that, I dashed straight towards the village chief's house. Mother Gu attempted to stop me, but the village chief held her back, stating, "Let Nyo-Nyo go play with little Fatty. They are at the perfect age for mischief." Oh dear, the plot has shifted again. To be precise, the female protagonist seems different this time. During the first iteration, she did not seek out little Fatty to play. This proves it. The female protagonist is certainly not foolish anymore. She is merely pretending to be naive. I sprinted towards the village chief's house. Along the way, I resolved that I must leave this village. Escaping requires money and a letter of introduction. Compared to money, acquiring the letter from the village chief poses a significant challenge. Since the comments indicate that the chief covets my family's wealth, it would be unwise to ask for it directly. The village chief and his wife were at the village entrance, leaving only little Fatty playing with mud. Little Fatty, age 12, had suffered brain damage from a fever in his childhood. He is genuinely simple-minded. I offered little Fatty the candy that Gu and Lin had given me, and he happily resumed his muddy play. To prevent any sudden visitors at the village chief's house, I wedged the door shut with a piece of wood. I then approached the village chief's office. The office door was locked, and the only key was now in my possession. Not long ago, I had stealthily taken this key from the village chief. I inserted the key into the lock and swung the door open. Before me lay a desk, with a bookshelf against the wall. I made a beeline for the desk and opened the leftmost drawer with the key. The comments erupted in chaos as they witnessed my actions. What on earth? I just stepped away for a moment, and what do I return to? Has the female protagonist finally woken up? Is she altering her fate? How thrilling! Am I the only one curious about her intentions? And where did she acquire that key? Ignoring the flurry of comments, I swiftly rummaged through the drawer, locating the paper the village chief uses for writing letters of introduction. I also found his seal in the cabinet and stamped it onto the letter. Wait, what is she up to? Oh my goodness, I'm losing my mind. She's preparing a letter of introduction. In this era, you need one to go anywhere. Ha ha. Am I the only one who realizes the female protagonist is no longer foolish? Unfazed by the frenzy in the comments, I took a few extra sheets of introduction paper just in case. Just as I placed the seal back into the cabinet, the comments urged me frantically. The village chief's wife is returning. She's at the crossroads. Hurry! The village chief is coming too. He's taking the back path and is almost at the house. Hurry, don't get caught. Seeing the comments, I methodically quickened my pace. After restoring everything to its original state, I exited the office and locked the door. I then sought a place to hide the key and the handkerchief containing the letter. What is the female protagonist doing? What is she searching for? The village chief and his wife are about to return. I pretended to ponder aloud. Where should I hide it? I can't keep it on me. What if I'm searched? Upon hearing my words, the comments paused briefly before erupting once more. Hide it in the hole. Hide it in the hole. There's a hole in the corner of the east wall of the village chief's house, dug by little Fatty in the past. Hide it there, quickly. Yes, hide it there. That hole connects to the outside, making it convenient. Feigning a casual discovery of the hole, I stuffed the handkerchief inside and covered it with debris. Then, I composed myself and pretended to play with little Fatty and the mud, even smearing some mud on the clothes drying outside, belonging to the village chief's wife. When the village chief knocked on the door, he found little Fatty and me, two muddy children, amidst a yard strewn with dirt, a murky water vat, and scattered items. The village chief glared at us, too hurried to scold us, and pushed us aside. I seized the chance to pull little Fatty down with me, causing him to land hard and cry out. I sat on the ground, mimicking little Fatty's tears and wailing alongside him. When the village chief's wife arrived and beheld the state of the house, she nearly fainted. The village chief approached the office door, finding it securely locked. He entered the inner room, only to emerge after a considerable time with a spare key in hand. I grabbed little Fatty and hid at the doorway, watching as the village chief meticulously inspected the office, rifling through drawers and shelves, particularly taking out the money box and counting its contents. Once he confirmed that nothing was missing, he let out a sigh of relief. Phew, thankfully the female protagonist didn't take the money. I almost wet myself with fright. After placing the money box back, the village chief turned around and spotted little Fatty and me, our heads caked in dirt. His triangular eyes scrutinized my face, searching for any hint of guilt. Seeing my innocent expression, he called for his wife to search me. She, puzzled, complied with his request. As she patted me down, I squirmed and giggled. Little Fatty stood nearby, drooling and grinning foolishly. That was close, that was close. The village chief is quite the old rascal. Oh dear, how thrilling. I might lose a couple of years off my life. Just as the village chief presented a piece of candy, intending to inquire about my family's situation, Gu Wenlin arrived. I was led back to the Gu household. Jiang Shui was also present, appearing as though she had been crying. It seemed Gu Wenlin had already divulged their circumstances to Father and Mother Gu, who were eager to ascertain how much I knew. Mother Gu restrained herself from slapping the muddy me, smiling as she asked, "Nyo, do you know you are getting married?" I picked at the mud on my clothes, responding, "I know." "And do you know who you are marrying?" she inquired. I covered my mouth, stifling a giggle. "I'm marrying Brother Gu, hee. Father and Mother Gu exhaled in relief. Seated in a corner, Jiang Shui's countenance was darker than the bottom of a pot. Gu Wenlin urged her to endure for a while, to which she acquiesced. However, upon hearing me declare my intention to marry Brother Gu, she felt a pang of discontent in her heart. That night, Gu Wenlin's room resonated with sounds until dawn broke, finally settling into silence. I was just preparing to rise and fetch the introduction letter from the village chief when Gu's mother awoke. She pulled me from the warmth of my bedding to engage in labor. Chopping wood, washing clothes, cooking, sweeping, feeding pigs, and cleaning the latrine were tasks I had performed in my previous life at the Gu household. In this life, however, I was determined not to take on every chore. When tending the fire, I inadvertently let it blaze outside. While washing dishes, I inevitably broke a few. As for laundry, I found myself scrubbing in the muddy ground halfway through. Sweeping the floor proved to be more futile than not sweeping at all. Observing the increasingly chaotic state of the home, Gu's mother grew weary. She handed me a basket and instructed me to gather pigweed on the mountain. This suited me perfectly. Ha ha, how amusing. With this barrage of comments, it was evident that the female protagonist was no fool. She was merely feigning ignorance. Must the commenters upstairs be so insistent? This secret is known to us all. I shouldered the basket and dashed back towards my home. Everything usable and unusable had been taken away by the Gu family. The house felt desolate. I recalled the previous life, when my adoptive parents passed away, their faces covered with funeral paper, laid side by side in the center of the main hall. That day, my world crumbled. Thus, when I witnessed Gu's parents fall into the water, memories of Gu Wenlin surfaced, and I wished for him not to endure the same pain of losing his parents as I had. Without hesitation, I leapt into the water to save them, only to discover I had rescued 3 water snakes. That morning, I wept for an extended period in the empty house, shedding tears for all the grievances of my past life. After crying, I reassured myself that it was time to strive for my own salvation. Armed with a wooden stick, I rummaged through the house. Upon seeing my tears, the previously silent barrage of comments sprang back to life. Was the female protagonist searching for something? It seemed she was indeed looking for something. Could it be that her adoptive parents had hidden something away without having the chance to tell her before their demise? Did she know something? This female protagonist had a hint of mischief. The barrage affirmed that she was certainly no fool. She was just pretending. How amusing. Amidst a flurry of comments, one stood out. "Hurry to the backyard. The things your adoptive parents left for you are buried there." Indeed. I had suspected that the existence of such comments must hold some validity. Following the directions from the comments, I nonchalantly strolled into the backyard. I paused by the most inconspicuous stone, where the comments claimed the items lay beneath. It was a box, and within it, gold awaited. I refrained from digging, as it was still light outside. Instead, I ventured up the mountain to gather a full basket of pigweed. Gu's mother was quite pleased with my efforts, finally believing she had found suitable work for me. Breakfast was prepared by Gu's mother that day at the village entrance. They had assured the village chief that they would treat me well and would not confine me. Although the food was modest, it was far better than the hunger I had endured in my past life. Gu Wenlin and Jiang Shui toiled all night, only rising by noon. Jiang Shui emerged from Gu Wenlin's room in a rather peculiar manner. I hurried over to grasp her arm, urging her to join me in play. Jiang Shui lost her balance and nearly fell, but Gu Wenlin caught her just in time. I was scolded by Gu Wenlin and, in a huff, retreated to my room. Gu Wenlin soon entered, holding a roasted sweet potato, and sat across from me, gently placing the potato into my hands while gazing at me with tenderness. He then initiated a conversation, weaving in various topics, and ultimately asked, "Nyo, do you know where your parents hid the good things? Here it comes." The male protagonist and his parents could hardly wait. I felt foolish, as by the end of my response, I was uncertain of what I had even said. The thought of my deceased parents brought genuine tears to my eyes. Consequently, Guilin expended considerable effort to console me. Later, I began feeding the roasted sweet potato to the little ants, completely ignoring him. Guilin stormed out of my room in a huff, while Gu's father and mother waited at the door, reassuring each other not to fret. In the afternoon, Guilin returned once more, brandishing a large white rabbit candy, and inquired if I wanted some. My eyes sparkled with delight and longing as I nodded vigorously. Guilin proposed a game, leading me back to my home and claiming that my parents had hidden treasures within. If I could find them, he would reward me with the candy in his possession. How shameless of this male protagonist. He dares to entice the female protagonist's family wealth with a mere piece of candy. The comments erupted in outrage. Having consumed her family's assets is one thing, now, they've even caused her demise. What a sinister creature. Female protagonist, you have awakened. Do not let romantic folly blind you to the true nature of this scoundrel. Though he is the male lead, it does not alter the fact that he is a rogue. I chuckled inwardly at the barrage of comments. In my previous life, I had indeed harbored feelings for Guilin. Even after losing my wits, the affection lingered. Thus, when the marriage registrar asked if my name was Jiang Shui, I momentarily regained clarity. I wished to marry Guilin. However, having witnessed his true colors over a lifetime, how could I still love him? I only resented my current inability to rid myself of him. I extended my pinky finger to Guilin, sealing a pact. Pinky swear, 100 years without change. Whoever alters their commitment is the fool. I spat on my thumb and pressed it against Guilin's in agreement. Ha ha. The look of disgust on the male protagonist's face was priceless. He turned ashen. Female protagonist, I must commend you. I support you wholeheartedly. In a subtle jab at the male protagonist, I had also used my saliva to further irritate him. Amidst the laughter of the comments, I dashed around the yard, gathering small stones, grass from the corners, and even discarded chopsticks. I amassed a considerable collection before Guilin. Initially, he appeared somewhat amused by my earnest searching. But as I continued, his expression darkened once more. Haha, the female protagonist is simply adorable. If this continues, I fear the male protagonist may lose his mind. Will the male protagonist become violent? Female protagonist, be cautious. Given Guilin's history of mistreating me, I was certain of one thing: this man had violent tendencies. To prevent him from laying a hand on me, I took a small shovel and began digging at the hole in the corner of the wall. I had once witnessed a snake ensnaring a frog, intending to devour it, and although I had been terrified, I bravely rescued the frog. After being disturbed, the snake abandoned its prey and retreated into the hole. Although my mother later blocked the entrance with stones, I was curious to know if the snake still resided within. After a few digs, I uncovered an opening the size of an egg. Ecstatic, I called for Guilin to join me in digging. Guilin genuinely believed I had stumbled upon something valuable. Upon seeing the stone cavern, his brows furrowed. Did your parents hide something here? He inquired. I nodded, attempting to explain, though ultimately, I found myself at a loss for words. Guilin appeared equally bewildered. He suddenly felt that communicating with a fool was an arduous task. However, upon witnessing my unwavering determination, he gritted his teeth and picked up the shovel to begin digging. Thus, after a span of half an hour, a large pit emerged before us. The egg-sized hole remained, its destination shrouded in mystery. I found a stick and inserted it into the abyss, seemingly without end. Guilin, observing my serious engagement with the hole, suddenly realized that he might have been deceived by a fool. Sweating profusely, he slumped helplessly into the pit. Later, I returned home with Guilin. During dinner, the faces of those seated at the table were grim. Only I, having rummaged through refuse, was so famished that my stomach was pressed against my back. Gu's father took a puff of his dry tobacco, casting an ambiguous glance in my direction. Over the past few days, they had discerned that I truly was rather foolish, and they could not place all their hopes upon me. They were preparing to search for answers themselves. Nevertheless, during this time, they decided to allow Guilin to continue taking me to the house for amusement. Who knows? Perhaps one day I would suddenly recall something. I devoured my meal heartily. Their assumption that I was foolish and their open discussions about it in my presence pleased me immensely. That night, The bed in Gu Wenlin's room creaked throughout the night. Jiang Shue's cries were so loud that I feared Gu's parents might not be sleeping, and thus I refrained from venturing outside. The next day, Gu's mother indeed arose late, while Gu's father bore dark circles under his eyes. After all, they were getting on in years. I took 2 steamed buns from the basket and, carrying a backpack, went out to cut pigweed, taking a detour past the village chief's house. Seizing the opportunity when no one was around, I retrieved the introduction letter from the mouse hole and tucked it into my backpack. Next, I simply needed to excavate the items buried in the backyard by my adoptive parents. According to the rumors, there were several gold bars and some jade jewelry inside, along with items that could verify my identity. Once I acquired the belongings, I would exchange them for money on the black market to purchase a train ticket. I also needed to find a fountain pen to fill in the blank introduction letter. Not many possessed fountain pens in these times, but they were not entirely absent. I contemplated this as I unknowingly approached the village entrance. Suddenly, a stranger appeared across the way. The man held a piece of paper depicting what seemed to be the pigsty of the Gu family. Little girl, do you know whose pigsty in the village looks like this? My heart raced. What on earth is happening? Have the protagonist's biological parents come looking for her so soon? Isn't it supposed to be a year later? Was I still watching the same story? In the original plot, those seeking the protagonist held a jade pendant. Why now is it a drawing of a pigsty? This drama was becoming increasingly intriguing. Oh dear, is this really the moment to discuss such matters? The protagonist remains blissfully unaware that the man opposite her is actually sent by her biological parents to assist in finding her. It seems as though the comments presume the protagonist can see the barrage of messages. From the comments, I had already deduced that I was not the biological child. Thus, was the message suggesting that in my past life, I had missed the one opportunity to save myself, represented by this very man? Just as I contemplated speaking, Gu Wenlin appeared behind me along with Gu's father and mother. Oh no, I've been caught by the male lead and his parents. What should I do? If only heaven would grant a wish, I would wish for the protagonist to see the comments. Not only has the protagonist become increasingly mischievous, but the comments have also taken on a wicked tone. Nyo, who are you talking to? Gu Wenlin asked the man warily. Gu's father and mother approached, their expressions guarded. Just as the man was about to speak, I feigned a stumble and fell into his arms. Gu Wenlin yanked me back. The man left without raising any suspicions. Following Gu Wenlin, I was plagued by turbulent thoughts. The comments surged with excitement. Am I seeing things? Did the protagonist just turn and trip? Based on my years of intelligence experience, we had just executed a flawless information exchange. I looked back carefully. It seemed the protagonist had slipped something to the man. Did she know he was searching for her? Oh my, the protagonist was becoming ever more cunning. Gu Wenlin took me to the mountain to cut pigweed. On our return, we were spotted by Jiang Shui, who lived across the way. In her quest to find the item hidden in my home, she and Gu Wenlin could only act as neighbors by day and lovers by night. Any attempt to hold hands during the day had to be done in secret. Consequently, seeing Gu Wenlin with me drove her to the brink of madness. Shortly after we entered the house, Jiang Shui came knocking. Brother Wenlin, my chair is broken. Can you help me fix it? Upon hearing this, Gu Wenlin instantly set down his backpack and followed Jiang Shui outside. As he reached the door, he turned to me and said, Nyo, you feed the pigs first. Gugu will take you to play later. He even threw me a charming wink. I thought, ugh, is the male lead attempting to seduce the female lead? And what of that other woman, who, despite being the main wife, was acting entirely like a mistress? Who can fathom such behavior? Gu Wenlin took me to my house to play again, and this time Jiang Shui accompanied us. Once the courtyard door was closed, Jiang Shui leaped into Gu Wenlin's embrace. As she glanced at me, her eyes gleamed with triumph and provocation. I paid her no mind, busily rummaging through the yard, creating a delightful mess. As we prepared to leave, Gu Wenlin attempted to hold my hand. Was the male lead trying to portray a devoted husband in front of the villagers? Look. The supporting character is about to lose her mind. Indeed, a cry of ouch echoed from behind us. Jiang Shui was seated on the ground, clutching her ankle. A pitiful sight with tears brimming in her eyes. A perfect image of a beautiful woman in despair. Gu Wenlin, feeling sympathy, abandoned his pretense of affection for me and scooped Jiang Shui into his arms, rushing her home. The village head's wife and Aunt Wang exchanged acidic remarks behind us. Nyo, your man is about to be snatched away. How tragic. With my parents gone, it seems my man may be lost as well. These villagers are insufferable. Their words dripping with sarcasm. I feigned heartbreak as I dashed back home, relishing the gossip. That night, disregarding his parents' admonitions, Gu Wenlin ventured to Jiang Shui's house. I gauged the time, grabbed a hoe, and headed to my home. What does the female lead intend to do at this late hour? Could she have discovered where the items were hidden? The protagonist truly knew. Wow, this would genuinely propel her to the status of the leading lady. Under the moonlight, I located the stone and unearthed the box buried beneath it. Just as the comments had indicated, it contained several gold bars and some jade jewelry, along with 2 letters, one from my biological parents and the other from my adoptive parents. It turned out that my biological parents had not abandoned me intentionally, but had been compelled by dire circumstances to leave me at the doorstep of a household, hoping I would be taken in. Unfortunately, that family had moved abroad, leaving behind only a nanny who happened to be my adoptive mother. Later, I was adopted by my foster mother to prevent my biological parents from finding me. During those years, my adoptive parents frequently waited outside that household. Yet there was never any news. In their letters, my biological parents expressed their profound love for me, assuring me that as long as they were alive, they would seek me out. Oh, how pitiable the protagonist is. Her biological parents are truly good people. However, later on, they were impersonated by the male lead and the female antagonist. But what is there to fear? The protagonist is no longer naive, and the narrative has entirely transformed. She will undoubtedly reunite with her biological parents. As I gazed at the comments rolling by, tears streamed down my face. It dawned on me that in my previous life, the Gu family's sudden prosperity was a deceitful act stemming from the impersonation of my biological parents. No wonder they thrived while keeping me shackled with chains. No wonder. Just before my demise, Gu mother exclaimed, "At last, we can go to the city and enjoy life with our son." They were simply afraid that my awakening would disrupt their schemes. They're indeed far more despicable than I had imagined. The protagonist wept, "Oh, do not cry, dear one." Now that the documents have been found and the introduction letter is in hand, the stage is set for the protagonist's narrative. Once she attains sufficient strength, she will return to settle the score with the male lead's family. I filled in the pit I had dug. The yard was already riddled with holes. An additional one would hardly draw attention. Clutching the box, I exited the courtyard. As I stepped out, I had already secured the introduction letter on my person. Observing that the sky was still dark, I made a spontaneous decision not to return to the Gu household, instead heading directly towards the county town under the cover of night. Is the protagonist truly leaving just like that? How abrupt. If not now, should I peruse the calendar for an auspicious day to depart? I couldn't shake the feeling that the man from earlier had something to do with the protagonist. The truth was unfolding upstairs. As I approached the village entrance, a figure suddenly appeared across the way, startling me into hiding in the grass by the roadside. It was Jiang He, the male antagonist. Jiang He? Isn't he Jiang Shui's older brother serving in the army? This is bad. In my previous life, his sister schemed against me. If he discovers me, will I be able to escape? I trembled in the bushes. Protagonist, it's Jiang He. What is wrong with Jiang He? Why is the comment section so agitated? Come out, Jiang He won't harm you. Why wouldn't Jiang He harm me? Although he is a soldier, he is also Jiang Shui's brother. What if he, like Gu Wenlin, is easily swayed by Jiang Shui's tears? Who would I turn to for justice? Regardless of the comments urging me to emerge, I remained hidden. At this moment, I could not afford even the slightest misstep. I had to trust myself. As Jiang He's footsteps grew closer, my heart rose to my throat. Fortunately, his footsteps passed without pause. I lingered in the grass a while longer, and only after the sounds faded completely did I gather my belongings and climb out. Stop. A sudden voice from behind startled me. Jiang Hui, who had already left, reappeared at my back. Almost dropping what I held, I was petrified. The male antagonist has discovered the protagonist. This is wonderful. If there is anyone in this world who wishes her well, apart from her adoptive parents and biological parents, it is the male antagonist. Protagonist, turn around and run into the male antagonist's embrace and cry. What kind of treacherous words are these? I turned around. Under Jiang He's command, I found myself pivoting. The beam of the flashlight illuminated my face, prompting me to shield my eyes with my arm. How, man? What are you doing here so late? Protagonist, the male antagonist has returned specifically for you. He knows your parents have passed away and thus rushed back. Wait. This doesn't add up. The male antagonist should have returned only half a month after the protagonist and the male lead registered their marriage. But the timeline doesn't match. Could it be the butterfly effect brought on by the protagonist's newfound cleverness? That doesn't seem plausible. A butterfly flapping its wings shouldn't impact someone thousands of miles away so swiftly. Could it be that the male antagonist has been reborn? The comments fell silent. I too fell into silence, overwhelmed by the influx of information that I needed to process. According to the comments, in my previous life, Jiang He had returned from the army in search of me. Protagonist, in the original narrative, the male antagonist sought you out at the Gu household upon his return, but was chased away by Gu and Lin, hence you never encountered him. That's not all. Later, when the male antagonist learned that the female antagonist had impersonated the protagonist's identity, he severed ties with her in fury. However, by then, it was too late. Both the protagonist and her biological parents had perished. The male antagonist spent his life regretting his initial trust in the male lead, failing to verify the protagonist's circumstances with his own eyes, which led to her tragic demise. Thus, in death, he had his comrades bury him near the protagonist's grave, intending to silently watch over her thereafter. Oh, how touching. I could weep. In my childhood, I adored trailing behind Gu and Lin, my heart and eyes filled with him, calling out Brother Gu every day. Back then, Jiang He was small and rather reclusive, never playing with us, yet he always lingered at a distance. Whenever I approached him, he would turn and run, making me believe I must be unattractive. After he enlisted, we never crossed paths again. I cannot fathom that such a person, with whom I had little actual interaction, would do so much for me in my previous life. What brings you here so late? Come, I'll walk you home. Hearing his offer to escort me back sent me retreating a few steps in fright. No. I want to go back. With that, I turned and fled. Jiang He, seeing me sprint towards the village entrance, followed closely behind, unable to quell his concern. Being a soldier, he quickly caught up with me. Where are you going? It's late. I'll accompany you. It's unsafe for you to be alone. He did not let me stop, but kept pace with me until I could run no longer. The dawn was beginning to break, and it wouldn't be long before the Gu family realized I was missing. After some contemplation, I chose to trust Jiang He this once, though I wasn't prepared to divulge everything. My parents have passed away, and I must leave Dahuai village. After stating this, I immediately warned him. You must not tell your sister Jiang Shui, nor the Gu family, nor anyone in the village. Jiang He, upon hearing this, furrowed his brow in thought for a few seconds, refraining from asking why, and nodded in agreement. He actually agreed. I informed him that I intended to go to the capital but lacked the funds. Without hesitation, Jiang He produced money and purchased the nearest train tickets to the capital. Staring at the 2 tickets, I was at a loss for words. I can't leave you alone, he said, his eyes reflecting a joy and sorrow I couldn't comprehend. While waiting for the train, to prevent Jiang He from alerting Jiang Shui, I instructed him to stay directly in front of me, never leaving my sight for more than 3 seconds. Jiang He smiled, his eyes curving delightfully, revealing his pearly white teeth, far more charming than that scoundrel Gu Wenlin. To ease my mind, Jiang He insisted on having me accompany him, whether to buy food or use the restroom. I waited for him at the restroom door, my face as flushed as a monkey's rear, provoking a soft chuckle from Jiang He. After 2 days and nights aboard a train, Jiang He and I finally arrived in the capital city. Guided by the hints from the barrage of comments, I located the home of my biological parents. Indeed, as the comments had suggested, my birth parents were exceptionally kind-hearted individuals. The moment they laid eyes on me, they recognized me as their long-lost daughter. Nevertheless, I took out the letter they had left behind in the box. As for the jade pendant, I glanced at the man who had appeared in the village a few days prior, standing behind my biological parents, and smiled. I recounted to my birth parents the tribulations I had endured over the years, as well as the actions of the Gu family. My mother embraced me, weeping uncontrollably. She revealed that she had recently been plagued by a recurring dream in which I was brutally beaten and tragically perished. She yearned to rescue me, yet felt utterly powerless to reach me. Upon waking, she replayed the scenes from her dream repeatedly, only to find me lying in a pigsty, on the brink of death. Although she could not discern the face of the assailant in her dream, she was unequivocally certain that it was me. She even sketched the pigsty she had seen in her dream. My father enlisted help to locate the place depicted in the drawing. Subsequently, she dreamt again. This time finding her daughter, but something felt amiss. She could not shake the feeling that it was not truly me. I assured her that the scenes she witnessed in her dreams were indeed real events from my past life. Both my biological parents and the barrage were taken aback, save for Jianghe. His gaze, like rolling waves, fixed upon me. After days of maintaining a serene facade, he finally faltered. He confided that he too had been reborn. In his previous life, until his last breath, he had been filled with profound regret for failing to save me. Therefore, upon his rebirth, he returned immediately, hoping to rescue me. This was also why he had come back 10 days earlier than in his past life. Regarding my adoptive parents' demise, it was no mere accident. After my death, while my soul wandered, I picked up on certain clues. A month later, Jianghe returned, bearing the investigation report on my adoptive parents' deaths. The culprits were the village head and Gu's father, who had inadvertently overheard a conversation revealing that my adoptive parents had buried gold. They conspired to murder my adoptive parents. Furthermore, the fall of Gu's parents into the water was also not an accident. The village head and they had initially planned to drown me during my attempt to rescue them, however. They were forced to abandon their scheme when a bystander happened to pass by. As a result, I suffered prolonged submersion, leaving me mentally impaired. Gu's parents calculated that many in the village coveted my family's estate. If they wed me, they could rightfully claim my land and residence as their own. As for the gold, it would be unnecessary for them to search if I knew its whereabouts. They had meticulously devised their plans, never anticipating my swift recovery. Consequently, the village head and Gu's father and mother were sentenced to death for their conspiracy to harm my adoptive parents and me. However, the two who had inflicted the greatest suffering upon me in my past life, Gu Wenlin and Jiang Shui, could not be convicted this time, as they had yet to enact their malice upon me. After revealing this information, Jiang He departed, with our next encounter occurring 6 months later. He appeared even darker than before, his smile more enchanting. He disclosed that he and Jiang Shui were not actual siblings. After his previous departure, he severed ties with Jiang Shui and reclaimed the house and land left to me by my adoptive parents from Gu Wenlin. Aware of my reluctance to return, he facilitated the sale of the property on my behalf. He further informed me that Gu Wenlin and Jiang Shui were not faring well. They had become pariahs in the village, enduring disdain as the relatives of criminals. He handed me an iron box containing a bank book and countless receipts, explaining that it was the dowry he had accumulated over the years in anticipation of marrying me. Ever since I learned of my rebirth, the long-absent barrage re-emerged, exclaiming that the grand finale had arrived, with a happy ending. Flowers were scattered, blessings were exchanged, and the story concluded. Thank you for listening. We shall meet again in the next tale.